Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we examine Zion Suzuki, a contemporary goalkeeper whose path from Urawa to Belgium and then to Parma in Serie A offers, as it were, a compact case study in modern goalkeeping development and international integration. I am Alexei, and we shall try to separate narrative enthusiasm from the evidentiary record, while allowing a little dry humor to keep us all oxygenated.
Hi, I'm Priyanka. I'm curious about how a goalkeeper's story can show us the bigger mechanics of football systems. So, moving on, we'll try to keep the details clear and ask the slightly annoying questions that, help.
To frame our discussion, it's important to understand what a goalkeeper is tasked with. Fundamentally, the goalkeeper prevents goals by positioning, handling, and reflex saves. This is shot stopping. Yet in the modern game, the keeper is also the first passer, shaping distribution under pressure, organizing the defensive line, and commanding the penalty area on set pieces. When stepping outside the box to clear danger or intercept through balls, we call that the sweeper-keeper function. It demands speed of decision, clear communication, and composure with the feet.
And a clean sheet is just when no goals are conceded. It sounds simple, but it reflects collective structure. Right. I guess the interesting part is how keepers balance risk in build-up versus safety when the press is intense.
Exactly. Communication and decision-making are the latent variables here. They are hard to measure but omnipresent. A keeper must instruct center-backs on set-piece marks, compress space behind a high back line, and choose passing lanes under pressure. If you will, think of it like chess with moving wind. The pieces have preferred squares, but the air changes their value second by second. Why consider Zion Suzuki now? He represents Japan internationally and by 2026 had earned 27 senior caps, which for a goalkeeper in his early 20s indicates unusual trust. His move to Serie A with Parma on a 5-year deal, debuting against Fiorentina in August 2024, places him within a demanding tactical ecosystem where goalkeepers are scrutinized for build-up fluency as much as for saves. In addition, his selection to Japan's 26-man squad for the 2026 FIFA World Cup raises the stakes. National team goalkeeping slots are rare, and stability there often shapes tournament outcomes.
Isn't it interesting how the role has evolved? Older models emphasize shot stopping almost exclusively, but now distribution and defensive orchestration seem decisive in moving between leagues. Adapting to Belgium's direct play and then to Italian tactical structures is not trivial.
Let's start with the history. Suzuki was born in Newark, New Jersey, to a Ghanaian father and a Japanese mother, then moved to Japan and grew up in Urawa, Saitama. He was named after Mount Zion in Jerusalem. The name reflects a multicultural family narrative and arguably an aspirational symbolism. He specialized early as a goalkeeper, joined Urawa Red Diamonds Academy in primary school, and progressed through the junior ranks while attending N High School, whose flexibility supported professional training loads. At 16 years and 5 months, he became the youngest player to sign a professional contract in Urawa's history. That is to say, the club saw a high ceiling and accepted the unusual risk of accelerating a teenage keeper. He debuted for the first team in March 2021 in the J-League Cup against Shonan Bellmare with a clean sheet, then made his J1 League debut in May 2021 in a 2-0 win over Vegalta Sendai, also a clean sheet. That season included 5 consecutive league starts as veteran Shusaku Nishikawa was briefly dropped, the J-League Cup New Hero Award, and a place in a squad that won the 2021 Emperor's Cup.
Building on that, 2022 brought lessons too. There was the AFC Champions League debut in April 2022, where a back pass error turned into an own goal. Then, immediately, a clean sheet in a 5-0 win over Shandong Taishan. He played 4 group fixtures before seniority reasserted itself for the latter stages, as Urawa went on to win the 2022 AFC Champions League, plus the Japanese Super Cup that year. And his senior Japan debut came in July 2022, a 6-0 win over Hong Kong.
Moving forward, he entered the Asian Cup cycle, starting in a 4-2 win against Vietnam and appearing in a 1-2 defeat to Iraq, which provided, if you will, tournament-grade stress tests. Then came Europe. In August 2023, he joined Sint-Truiden on loan, initially understudy to Daniel Schmidt, before earning the starting role. He logged 32 league appearances in the 2023-24 Belgian season. In February 2024, the club announced the move would become permanent in July 2024. Yet later in July 2024, Parma signed him on a 5-year contract, and in August 2024, he debuted in Serie A against Fiorentina with a 1-1 draw, becoming only the second Japan national team player at Parma after Hidetoshi Nakata.
And across 2024 and 2025, he kept receiving Japan call-ups. Then, in May 2026, he was named to the World Cup squad. The cumulative picture through 2026 is roughly 120 senior club appearances and 27 caps for Japan, plus peer and continental recognition with JPFA Best 11 honours in 2023, 2024 and 2025, and IFFHS Asian team selections in 2024 and 2025. That is a lot by his early 20s.
Speaking of personal notes, what I admire in Suzuki is not a single save, but his response function. After a high-visibility error in continental play, he reset immediately. We observed the same mental habit in the way he stepped from understudy to starter in Belgium without melodrama. In simpler terms, when the board tilts, he still finds the next precise move. This brings us to our larger questions. Next, let's explore 3 big questions. First, historically, how did his early career decisions shape his trajectory? Second, counterfactually, what if he had not made the error in his AFC Champions League debut? Third, in the present tense, what challenges must he navigate to maintain and extend his international role while playing in Serie A? On to our next point, the historical question. Early specialization as a goalkeeper in elementary school gave him a long runway for technical footwork, handling, and aerial timing. The Urawa Academy then provided continuity of coaching language from junior to youth levels. Choosing N High School ensured he could align training volume with academic obligations. This is a structural decision often underappreciated by outsiders. Most striking, at 16 years and 5 months, he entered the professional environment. In 2021, he displaced for a period the decorated incumbent Nishikawa and delivered multiple clean sheets on debut. We can infer that the club's internal data and training observations ranked his temperament and communication on par with his physical tools, justifying real minutes.
Can we say that this early trust is rare for a keeper because mistakes are so costly? For example, why would a staff accept the variance of a teenager in goal when they could default to seniority?
It is crucial to understand the asymmetry of the position. Managers typically prefer experience at goalkeeper due to error cost. Therefore, when we observe a club granting starts to a teenager, it suggests that internal risk models placed his expected contribution above the veteran's current form. Early clean sheets, the J-League Cup New Hero Award, and calm distribution under pressure would have updated priors rapidly in his favor. In conclusion, his early decisions, specialization, academy continuity, flexible schooling, interacted with club-level choices to accelerate his trajectory beyond the normative curve for goalkeepers. Let's shift focus to the counterfactual. In April 2022, his AFC Champions League debut included a backpass miscontrol that resulted in an own goal. In the very next match, he kept a clean sheet in a 5-0 win over Shandong Taishan. The immediate bounce back signaled psychological resilience to coaches and teammates. He then ceded the later knockout minutes to seniority as Urawa proceeded to the title. The what-if is straightforward. Without that error, does he retain the starting role deeper into the tournament, thus accelerating European attention?
Maybe that's something we can unpack. If he had no visible error at that stage, would the perception of risk have changed enough to keep him in the lineup? Or would the conservative bias toward a veteran still dominate in knockout rounds?
To elaborate, two plausible branches exist. Branch 1. No error, continued competent play, and a manager still opts for the veteran in elimination rounds, because tournament risk management rewards predictability. In this branch, Suzuki's timeline remains similar. Branch 2. No error plus one or two standout interventions shift selection inertia slightly. He retains the gloves deeper into the tournament, and European scouting notes thicken earlier. However, the observed path, error, immediate recovery, then measured rotation, produced a different advantage, a documented resilience profile. For many decision-makers, how a goalkeeper responds to error is more predictive than an error-free but untested sequence. Thus, his bounce-back may have been as valuable to his future as an unblemished debut would have been.
It makes me wonder if that resilience also helped at Sint-Truiden. Starting as understudy to Daniel Schmidt, and then winning the job, in a league known for direct play and aerial duels, seems to require the same quick reset habits.
Arguably, yes. The Belgian Pro League environment pressures goalkeepers in the air and in second ball sequences. His ascension to the #1 shirt across a 32-appearance season signaled adaptability. That, in turn, made Parma's 5-year investment rational. Long contracts function as both belief statements and development frameworks. As we continue, the open question is present day. What challenges must he address to sustain his international role while at Parma? First, serial adaptation. Belgium emphasized aerial management and direct clearances. Serie A imposes a more intricate press resistance test and a premium on positional play, especially when tasked with initiating build-up under structured opposition. Second, communication cadence. Coordinating an Italian defensive unit and toggling to Japan's national team schemes requires multilingual and multi-schema clarity. Miscommunication is the invisible concession.
What comes to mind next is the workload pattern. In 2024-25, he was near ever present for Parma. Then, in 2025-26, his appearances dipped a bit. So, what are the ongoing challenges for him in Serie A to keep the shirt and still arrive sharp for Japan?
We observe three practical fronts. 1. Role clarity under rotation. When appearances vary, maintaining rhythm requires microcycles of training that simulate match stress, especially for high and low block scenarios. 2. Set-piece command. Serie A sides weaponize dead balls with elaborate screening, so proactive starting positions and decisive claims are non-negotiable. 3. Travel and tactical toggling. International windows compress recovery and demand resynchronization with a different backline. To some extent, the research frontier in goalkeeper training, scenario periodized distribution drills, decision speed under visual occlusion, and communication protocols will help him hedge variance. If sustained, these habits keep him in Japan's trusted cohort while meeting Parma's weekly constraints.
From a different angle, there is also symbolism. Being only the second Japan national team player at Parma after Hidetoshi Nakata carries attention. Handling that narrative while still focusing on, marginal gains in footwork and passing choices is its own quiet challenge.
In this context, we return to the basics. Suzuki is a professional goalkeeper, shot stopper, distributor, organizer, occasional sweeper keeper, and, increasingly, an interpreter of pressure and space. Today we examine three questions: how early career decisions accelerated his rise, how a single continental error, paradoxically, highlighted resilience that served him later, and what present challenges in Serie A and with Japan will test his continuity. For listeners inclined to further study, compare pathways of J1 League goalkeepers moving to Europe. Consider, for instance, the Belgian bridge used by several Japanese keepers, and map how league styles modulate goalkeeper development curves.
So, I guess that kind of sums it up. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Professor.
This then completes our present analysis. Until next time.